Hi there! Welcome to Kitchen Garden Therapy. My name is Slava and today I would like to take you on a tour of my garden in the month of May. I just finished planting all of my summer crops, things like tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers, and I'm so excited to show you where and how I had planted them, the strategies I have used, and so on. Also, I would like to show you my cool season vegetables because they are full in their glory. This past 3 months I had been enjoying harvesting things like lettuce, spinach, and stuff like that. Cool season veggies, they are almost done. I will be pulling them out really soon. So before I do that, I would like to show you all of the veggies I have and the flowers that just had started to bloom in my garden. So let's go in there and I'll talk about each of them. Thank you for being here. So let's start here in the front of my house where I planted this beautiful plum tree. This is the newest addition to my garden. I planted it last month, and I also planted pansies that I started from seed in the month of February, and then I transplanted them here in April. And only now they had started to bloom nicely. They're so beautiful and colorful. Just love them. Let's get closer and I'll show you what I grow in there. I have 2 quince trees. One is here and one toward the back. And this year it was blooming a lot. And right now it has fruit setting all over. I love quince. I'll make a lot of jam in the fall. Now here in the front of the house I have peonies and they are starting to bloom. Finally, I love May because of peonies. Look how pretty it is, even when it's not completely open. I actually love this stage of blossom the most. So I have one peony bush over here and the other variety over there, that's a double cup. I also have 2 rose bushes and they are all budded up, almost ready to bloom. I also have 2 hanging baskets of petunias in here which are starting to bloom, and 2 tomatoes in here. Can you spot them? They are actually in the pots. So these are bush variety tomatoes. They will not grow big and I think they will be perfect in here. Let me show you the other one. It's called Czech bush tomato. Looks like my snapdragons are about to start blooming as well. You can see buds all over them. And my California poppies are starting to bloom as well. I also have some pansies. I planted some peppers in between. And here I have the other peony. More peppers in pots and clematis. I have 2 different ones. This is lighter purple and that's a little bit darker. Then in these pots over here I have pansies with pepper in the middle. I have container variety zucchini and the same one on the other side. And then in here I have peppers, petunias, more pepper. Pansies are almost done blooming. And on this side I have rose mallow with chamomile and sweet potato peppers and nasturtiums. Let me show you from the other side. So this is how those nasturtiums look over here. I purposely planted them on the edge so they can drape over and cover that railing. And here in the bottom, I planted morning glories. And I want to put some kind of trellis for them over there so they can climb up and cover this wall. I also have a grow bag with pepper in here. And let me show you this side. This is where my community library is. And I have flowers and peppers in here. And even one tomato in the pot. These peppers are actually starting to form. You can see a little tiny fruit. This is Hungarian and this is banana pepper. Calendula is coming up nicely. Daffodils are still blooming. I love these daffodils. And my forget-me-nots are in bloom right now. Can't wait for the bachelor buttons to start blooming and bee balm. Let's go to my backyard and I will show you first this tiny space over here by the entrance, by the front gate, where I have a few tomatoes growing in pots, and some of them are already almost in bloom. They had flowers earlier, but I picked them off because I wanted them to grow big and tall and then flower and set fruit. Next, I have my lilac, which is currently in bloom. It makes my whole yard smell so good. Unfortunately, lilac doesn't bloom for long. Let's move forward. And this is my backyard. Small and tiny. One fence, that's another fence. On both sides of my yard, I am growing in ground by the fence. This is like 3-4 feet. And over there is the same way. And then in the middle, I have my raised beds that I built 2 years ago. And let's start here by the garage, where I have elevated raised beds. And I'm almost ready to pull out the peas and these kohlrabis and lettuce and kale, because next week we are expecting really hot weather. And they are almost ready anyway. I have been harvesting peas for the last week, so another week or so and I'll be done with this one. I have more peas around my garden. And the kohlrabi looks like it's almost ready as well. Let me show you a closer look. It's purple kohlrabi. And I like it around this size, a little bit bigger. Lettuce is almost done. And the peas, I love it. I have to actually harvest some of it today. I have already planted next crop that's going to replace what's in here. Peppers and tomatoes. And I have on this side the same. You see, pepper and a tomato. So when I remove these plants, peppers and tomatoes will have more room to grow. And over there I have a ton of kale. Let me show you. This kale had started blooming, so I cut the stalk that was blooming and it kind of let the plants continue to grow. So this first one, I have Savoy cabbage in the front. Then I have Romanesco broccoli in here and cauliflower in here. And let me see if I can show you a close-up. It's just starting to form in there, you see? That's a cauliflower. And this is Romanesco. Pretty, isn't it? And then in the back, I have broad beans and peas. And I planted them in the back of every raised bed that I have. So as you can see right there, I have the same thing. Broad beans in the middle, peas on the sides, and over there is the same way. This is my sour cherry tree. It was blooming like crazy just a couple of weeks ago, and I hope it got pollinated because I really want those sour cherries. So far I don't see cherries forming, but it's a little too early to judge. So I'll wait a couple of weeks and then check. And then here I had my asparagus, but I had harvested it already and it started going to bloom. So soon I'll have, this is a female asparagus, it will have red berries later on. But right now it's blooming. And I have lovage over there in the back. Lovage is a great vegetable to have. It's like celery, but a little bit stronger flavor. And it's perennial, so you plant it once and you harvest for years. And then over here I have one of these pots with wheels. And I planted 2 tomatoes in the back and 2 peppers in the front. And over there I have a secret garden. Remember I was showing you in one of my videos, I called it awkward spaces. So this is one of those awkward spaces. It's on the side of the garage, just like a cement walkway, so I can go to the compost bin. I decided to plant tomatoes on this side and potatoes on the other. And it's like a jungle here now. I can't even walk through. They had grown so much from the time that I was planting them. And potatoes are ready to bloom. Look, they have buds all over. I'm so excited. In the middle raised bed, I have some leftover endive and lettuce, onions, potatoes, chamomile all in between. Here I have orach growing, shallot, onions, calendula on the side. I have planted some eggplants in here. My idea is to harvest the scale and then let the eggplant grow big and tall here in the back. Also, these broad beans and peas will be coming out soon. Probably in the next couple of weeks, I will be harvesting those broad beans. And these peas we are already eating. So by that time, this eggplant will be ready to take this whole spot for itself. And look how pretty this calendula is. I love calendula, and it has a ton of buds. Soon, on both sides, I'll have a lot of blooms of calendula. And in the last raised bed, I have my comfrey. I have Swiss chard that is going wild. Look at it, so pretty. This is the orange variety, and I love it. I need to start eating this. There's so much of Swiss chard. More calendula and lettuce. I have romaine lettuce here, and we had been picking the side leaves, but it looks like it's about time to completely harvest this lettuce and also that kale. And look how pretty this calendula is too. It's a different variety from the one I was showing you before, but I don't remember the names. more broad beans. These are actually slightly bigger than the other ones because this raised bed receives much more sunlight than the other two. So obviously things grow better and bigger in here. And then in the back over here by the fence, this is my in-ground area, and I am growing carrots in here this year. These are different varieties of carrots. I planted them in March. They're growing beautifully here. I have to thin them because obviously they are too close to each other. This is my garlic from last year. This is a hardneck garlic, and I left it here on purpose to harvest those garlic scapes. Also, my raspberries, these are golden raspberries, are currently blooming. You can see tiny little flowers. That's how raspberry blooms. And this is my dwarf peach. And it looks like I'll have some peaches this year. You see? It is forming. That little thing is a lychee tomato, and I have few of them by the fence. I planted them all the way there because they are thorny and I don't want to get hurt. Also, this whole thing and all of these plants, these are sunchokes, also known as Jerusalem artichokes. They are so invasive. Originally, I just planted a couple, like one here and one there, and they had spread everywhere. So Jerusalem artichokes grow like crazy. You have to be careful with them. So when they come up over here, I always pick them up because I don't want them to be here. They grow tall like sunflowers. I don't want them to be tall over here, but over there in the back it's okay. My iris is almost ready to bloom. Look at it. The buds are so plump and full. I love it. Looks like this year I'll have 5. Awesome. And let me show you a close-up of those lychee tomatoes. Their blooms look like potato blooms. And they are white, but they have a purple hue to them. So pretty. But look at all those thorns on the stem, on the leaves, everywhere. I have a few perennials in here. This is salad burnet that is about to bloom, red Wayne sorrel, chives, columbine. These are my alpine strawberries, which are blooming right now and starting to set fruit. They're so tiny. The blooms of alpine strawberries are also smaller than the blooms of regular strawberries. And these are sunchokes again. I had finally brought out my ginger from indoors, and I put it here on the table. This pot is obviously too small for ginger, but I wasn't sure if it's going to grow or not, so I put it in here. But now that it is growing, probably I will put it in one of the bigger pots or maybe one of those grow bags. We will see. In these grow bags, I have eggplant in the back, and then in the front I have 2 peppers, and I interplanted marigolds in between. And then in front of my raised beds, I have tomatoes. They are not going to stay here forever because they will grow tall and shade the raised beds. But for now, I haven't come up with better place. This is my medicinal herb patch. This is motherwort, valerian root, chrysanthemum, greater celandine, and a few others. So I showed you my secret garden on that side of garage, where it's just a little narrow tiny space. On the other side of my garage I have a little bit more room. So I have a shed where I keep all my tools and lawnmower, and then here I have another raised bed, and this, I don't know how to call it, it's not a raised bed, but it's one of those constructions from IKEA that came up with a trellis, and I set it up here, and I put one of those grow bags in there in which my tomatoes are growing, and my plan is to tie these tomatoes to the trellis as they will be growing. In the front I also have a few peppers. This raised bed has the remnants of arugula and spinach, which are starting to bloom, and I am about to pull them out. That's why I have already planted corn and sunflowers and zucchini and beans, all kinds of different things in here. So the idea is to remove these and then add more zucchini on their spot, and this will be my three sisters bed, which is corn, beans and zucchini, with addition of few flowers, zinnia and sunflowers. In front I have a few pots with peppers, and then by the shed I have more grow bags in the back with tomatoes. Oh, and look, the savory is already blooming. How fast! Wow. Savory is one of my favorite garden herbs. It goes in everywhere. I need to tie these tomatoes and trim them a bit. They have too many leaves. It's like a forest. My Schisandra vine was blooming like crazy this year, and I'm so excited because I want the fruit. So I'm hoping that Schisandra will give me fruit this year. The birds will not pick it, hopefully, and I'll receive a harvest. Also, my currants were blooming a lot, and right now they are forming fruit all over. I think this is red currant or white. No, this is white. So that was red, white, and then black over there. And my shangiku, which is edible chrysanthemum, also known as chop suey, is blooming right now. It's so pretty. It has this ombre petals, darker in the middle and lighter to the end. I also have fenugreek planted over here in between. This is my fenugreek. And a row of cilantro. I am sorry I didn't weed this area, so there's a lot of weeds coming up, but that's okay. We'll get to that eventually. Then over here I have some cabbages and lettuce. I planted them here because of the grapevine that will create some shade. And look at that, it is blooming already. Wow. And that's black currant right there in the back. Now let me show you my strawberries. They are in their glory right now, blooming so nicely. I had originally planted a handful of strawberries in here, maybe 3-4. I just bought from a Home Depot, regular strawberries, nothing fancy, and I just planted them here 7 years ago. And look what happened. They just spread like crazy. They grow everywhere. They are now coming into my lawn over there. But I love strawberries and I love making jams, so when I see strawberries forming, it is an excitement. I love seeing this. I also have rhubarb in here, some spinach, perennial broccoli, just a mix of different things. But mainly this is a strawberry patch with perennials in the back. And in those hanging pots I have nasturtiums, and then a newest addition to my garden, green stock planters. I just received them not so long ago as a birthday gift, and I'm so happy that I did, because just look at them, they're so pretty. Petunias started blooming finally. I planted it from seed in February. It took so long for it to bloom, but finally it does, and I hope it will be blooming all summer long. Some of my miniature microtom tomato already has a little tiny fruit. These orange head miniature tomatoes also are starting to produce fruit, and the other ones are blooming a lot. Oh, there is a tiny fruit here too. That's another microtom, and these are orange head. And my cilantro is blooming right now. Look how pretty it is. Small tiny yard, but I try to fit as much as I can in here because I love gardening and I like to try different varieties and grow as much as possible for my family. So I had decided to use half of my yard for raised beds and leave the other half for walking and sitting areas.